Welcome to Got Grass, conversations with the legends and leaders of bluegrass. You've enjoyed live bluegrass at Guitar Town CT concerts in Hampton, Connecticut since 2008. From Tony Rice, Rouse Stanley, and Doyle Lawson to Tim O'Brien, Sierra Hall, and Billy Strings. Now you can go behind the scenes as we chat with your favorite bluegrass stars. I'm your podcast host, Chris Worth. Well, my guest today on Got Grass is Clay Hess, one of the top guitarists and singers in bluegrass that I'm aware of. So welcome, Clay, to Got Grass.
Thanks for having me.
My usual first question, which is not a music question, but I ask people, what's your typical morning or day like when you have nothing major on your agenda and no guitar in sight?
Oh, wow. What is it like, or what would I like it to be like?
Well, let's say, what is it really like? Because we're dealing with reality here.
I get up and play games with my little girl. She's 7. She's an early riser, and so am I. So we try not to wake everybody else up.
Nice.
So we go downstairs and play games until everybody rolls out of bed.
Gotcha. So that's the real world. How about the wishful world? If you just had nothing on your agenda, had a day to do nothing, and maybe your kids were around or not, what would you choose to do?
I would go out and bass fish every morning.
Oh, that's kind of your passion?
Yep, it is. But I don't get to do it nearly as often as I'd like.
Yeah. Are you a catch and release guy or a catch and pan fry?
Catch and release. I love to catch fish, hate to eat fish.
Interesting. That's a new one. Okay, well, so how long can you sit around the house before the guitar calls out to you and you got to pick it up?
A lot longer than it used to be. Mm-hmm. The older I get, the longer I can stave it off. But with doing demos and recording for other people, I usually play every day.
Yeah. So what have you been up to lately in terms of your music career? I know you still have your band that you play with, tour with.
Yeah. Right. I just released a new single, came out May 28th to all the streaming services and iTunes and all of that. With it's me and Zach McLam, who's my favorite bass player right now, plays with Alan Bybee. Randy Coors and Ricky Skaggs is playing on it.
Yeah, it's a nice band. Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
Yeah.
But I recorded the first song I ever remember hearing, which is 16 Tons.
Right. I've heard that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Any original stuff on there that you're writing and singing or playing, or are you doing covers or a mixture?
I've got one that I've written that I think is going to be on this project, and it's the first song I'd written in years. I've been too busy to write, and I'm happy. It's hard for me to write when I'm happy. When I'm miserable, I can write a song a day.
Yeah, I guess that's. I guess if you look back at music, most of the great songs are written out of heartbreak or anger or some kind of unhappiness.
Yeah, something deeply emotional anyway.
Yeah, I mean, happy songs get a little boring, I think.
They do. And I'm not a love song guy. My wife accuses me of being unemotional, actually.
I've heard that too. So you grew up in Ohio, I know that, and I assume like most top musicians, you grew up in a musical family where music was around the house all the time?
All the time.
All the time.
4 nights a week, we had jam sessions, and I would go out. A bunch of old guys that I played with, they were all Korean War and World War II veterans, which dates me a little bit. This is back in the 80s. And we'd go to an AmVets hall or a VFW hall and just sit around and jam for 5 hours, which is a good training ground for learning to play rhythm guitar. And
yeah. Do you have any specific memory of music where you heard something and it said, wow, that's just what I want to do. That's how I want to sound, or that's the world I want to be in? Like, I've heard people say the first time they heard Bill Monroe, or they heard, whatever it might be, jazz, I don't know. It's just like, whoa, I got to play music my whole life.
Oh yeah, I was playing with no real direction in playing until I heard the Manzanita record.
Oh, okay.
When I heard the kick off to Old Train, it was over.
That was my next question because I was going to assume that you're a big Tony Rice fan, like most guitarists are, and like most of us are, right? Growing up,
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah.
As a matter of fact, that poster right there, the
Hmm.
brown one back in the background, um, I got to play several shows with Tony when I was playing with Mountain Heart. The first gig we did with him, we were doing his songs, and Josh Schilling didn't know the songs yet, so I had to sing all Tony's songs with him standing beside me. And I didn't know till like the day before. And then on our last show together, that poster, he signed it to Clay in mutual admiration, Tony Rice,
Nice.
which is like, I mean, what else do you want?
I guess if you had known you were going to have to sing next to him for 2 weeks ahead, you probably would have been so nervous. You might have, I don't know, might have been hard.
Well, thankfully, I've never been nervous. So
No?
that's good. It's
You
probably
never
the
get,
unemotional thing.
yeah, you never get nervous before a gig or going on stage or anything. You just go up and do it and you're happy.
Yep. My dad always told me whenever if you're playing on stage in front of people, most of the time you've got to assume that you know more about what you're doing than they do. So there's really no sense in being nervous. So I just always look at it that way.
Sounds like good father advice. I don't know. Well, Tony played here 4 times, I think, from 2008, 2011. And I talked with him quite a lot and talked with many people who have played with him and knew him much better than I ever did. And I've often tried to describe his special character or attraction, but it seems almost mystical or even magical to me, just his aura. How would you explain that kind of grip he had on music, on bluegrass music? Do you have any?
Well, I think it came from his understanding of other genres of music.
Mhm.
You know, once you delve into the other regions of music, it's the way it's been for me. Bluegrass, um, it's a nuanced music. You know what I mean? There's 3 chords there most of the time.
Sure.
So it's the nuance that separates Tony from other players to me. The little things that he did within the timing structure or the arrangement, or you know, playing a chord over a different chord
Hmm.
that other people didn't think of, that made him the stalwart that he was in the music. He just
Talk,
thought about things that other people didn't think about.
yeah. I've talked to a couple of people, specifically um, Todd Phillips and Mark Schatz, who played with him a lot. And it seems like, and they said this too, that everybody who ever played with him played their best when they played with him. Like there
Oh
was
yeah, for
no,
sure.
there was no, you had to be at your very, very best, and he brought it out in everybody. From would you agree?
Yeah, I've run into a few players like that.
Really.
Um, Ron Block is like that.
Hmm.
Jim Mills was like that. When like if you have timing issues and you played with Ron Block or Jim Mills or Tom Adams, they went away
Hmm.
because they made you play with them. There was no getting away from it.
Yeah.
Their timing was so incredible that you either played with them or you were lost completely.
Yeah. Well, that's what Todd said. He said, you screw up, you're not being asked back. So you really run your A game from the beginning. And, I mean, his bands were famous for no rehearsals and everybody drove separately and showed up at the gig and here we go. And
Yep.
it was sink or swim, but everybody seemed to swim. It's just
Yeah,
amazing.
that's kind of the way our band is.
Yeah. Really?
We've we've never had a rehearsal.
Yeah.
And the guys know the songs, and if you know the song, you should be able to play the song, right?
So that's kind of like a conscious choice just to go in and do it. You just don't bother with all that rehearsal and stuff.
Well, we live so
Right.
far apart that
Ah,
it's you know,
possible.
4.5, 5 hours apart.
Yeah.
It's just we'll run over the songs, before the gig. A few things. If anybody has a question about something, we'll go over it real quick. But most of the time, it's just get up there and do it. We've been playing together for the last 6 years too, so it's kind of
Right.
Everybody knows their deal.
What they do, yeah. So in doing these podcasts, I've learned more about how big a deal it was for people to be in Ricky Skaggs' band. How did you end up playing with Ricky?
This is a crazy story. I had no idea that Ricky was looking for a guitar player. I played in a band in 1992, late 92 maybe, called the Fly By Night Band. One of the guys is now a DJ, Big Al Weekly. He has a big syndicated bluegrass show. Another guy is Jim Britton, who has Series Banjo Works. And he went on to play with Jim and Jesse and Larry Sparks and several other bands. So Jim Britton was playing the Opry one night with Jim and Jesse, and Ricky was on the Opry. So Jim goes up to Ricky and he says, I don't know where he is. He's somewhere in Ohio. You need to find Clay Hess if Brian's leaving. So Ricky's like, okay, whatever, you know. Well, Del McCurry was playing the Opry that night. And I grew up around Jason Carter. You know, we grew up playing the same contests and stuff like that. Jason was a guitar player when I first met him. He comes up and Ricky said, he came up and said verbatim the exact same thing to me 2 hours after Jim did. So he was like, well, that's strange. Well, Blue Highway was on Ricky's label at that time. And I had worked at a music store in Covington, Kentucky called Hayes Brothers Music. And it had a theater, and Blue Highway played in the theater. After the show, Tim and I sat and played guitars for, 30, 40 minutes, whatever. And he took a business card. And, well, the morning after that Grand Ole Opry show, Blue Highway was in the studio, and Ricky asked Tim if he knew anybody that could cut this gig. And Tim pulled that old mangled business card out of his wallet and said, there's your guy right there. So he heard my name twice, saw it on a business card once, had never heard of me before. And this all happened in a span of about 20 hours. He was like, I knew I had to find you. He was like, I don't look for people. But that to me said I needed to look for you. So it took him a month to find me. This is pre-cell phone, pre-internet, real internet days. And so I was working construction in Athens, Ohio, where I'm from, working with my dad. And I walked in the house and the phone rang. And I don't remember who that was, but I was on my way to the shower. I think we had poured concrete that day, so I had concrete all over me. Walk in. This is the not a cell phone, but the cordless phone. Lay it down. Step into the shower. Not even wet yet. The phone rings again. My thinking is it's whoever I was just talking to forgot to tell me something. So I step out and I answer the phone. And he says, hello. And I say, hello. And he said, this is Ricky Skaggs. How you doing? My family are big practical jokers. So I said, yeah, right. He's from a similar area of the country. Accent's pretty similar to somebody who could be yanking my chain. So, and he said, huh? I said, I didn't say anything at that point. I just left it dead, waiting on him to say something, because I'm going to flip the tables on whoever this is, or try to. And so he said, Ricky Skaggs. I said, yeah, right. He said, are you busy? And me thinking it's a practical joke, I said, no, I'm naked, because I just stepped into the shower. And he said, huh? And I said, I just stepped into the shower. And he was like, oh, you need some time to dry off? And I said, it don't bother me if it don't bother you. So then when he said whatever he said next, I realized that it actually was him. And then I was like, this is perfect. I've just destroyed whatever chance I had at a gig with Ricky right here. So he said, I had a few people tell me about you. This was on a Tuesday. He said, and mini disc was the big thing back then. He was like, can you make me a recording of you playing and singing and overnight it to me tomorrow?" And we had a mini disc recorder there, and I was like, "Sure, I can do that." And I did it, and then I was like, "I wonder why you wanted it overnighted. That's really strange." So I overnighted it Wednesday. He got it Thursday. He called me Thursday night, and he said, "I really like what I'm hearing. Can you play the Opry with me tomorrow night?" So Tuesday, I had no inkling of anything coming down the pike. And Friday, I played the Grand Ole Opry for the first time. Hadn't really played guitar that much in 6 months. So perfect time for him to call.
Wow. Well, it's funny because I wrote on my question here, I said, did you have to audition for Ricky, or had somebody already told him, you got to get this kid Clay Hess? So I guess it was the second part of that question was right?
Yeah,
Somebody...
it's serendipitous.
Interesting. So what was it like? Had you been to Nashville before and played, or were you pretty much played around your local area?
No, I just played regionally. The first time I ever played in Nashville was on the Opry.
Yeah. So what was that like, playing as a young Ohio kid with Ricky Skaggs right off the bat? Like, fear?
It was
You said you
fun.
don't have any fear, so I guess that wasn't an issue, right? You weren't nervous.
No, it was just, it's just music. It was a lot of fun. Bobby Hicks, we in the cage back there where they store all the equipment. When they bring it out for the show, that's where that was our dressing room, because the dressing rooms were too small. There were 8 people in the band.
Yep.
So we would stand back there. Well, the first time I got together with them, we ran over a few songs, and then they played Pig in a Pen. So I played a guitar solo, and I look over at Bobby Hicks, and he mouths right after my guitar solo. I look over at him, and he doesn't say it out loud, but he mouths "F you." So I stood there for a second, and I looked back at him, and I mouthed it back to him. And from that moment on, we were buddies. Those older guys would just see how much they could push you, how much you would take, or how much they could buffalo you. So it was just a blast from the whole time.
Where'd you get all this self-confidence from at a young age? Most people in that position might have just been they might have been throwing up off stage or something. Like, how were you so confident that you could just pull it off? Is that just your upbringing and your way?
My dad and my mom, they were both just salt of the earth people. I grew up in Appalachia, so if you're going to let anybody push you around, they will. So it was where I grew up is a really interesting area, because Athens is where Ohio University is. So it's a very cosmopolitan place. All nationalities, all races live there. But if you get a mile outside of Athens, you're in Appalachia. I mean, as hard as it can get. It was amazing, the difference in that the two places. It was like living in two different worlds all the time.
Yeah. So as a kid, did you go to town a lot and hang out in that kind of more?
Well, yeah, because there was a music store called Blue Eagle Music, and I used to go up there and hang out with a guy named John Hutchison, who's written songs. He was Tim O'Brien kind of started with his band. John was from Barnesville, Ohio, which is right across from Wheeling, and he wrote a few songs that Hot Rice cut. Money to Burn was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would go up there and hang out with John, and we'd jam a little bit, and then I'd watch him play Scrabble for money, because he's a songwriter. He's a word guy.
Sure.
So he and another guy there would play Scrabble for $50 a game. And this was like in 1985, 86. So it was, and then all the people that came in the music store, you had the the neo hippies, and then you had the jazz guys who were the the heavy rock guys. They were all converged right there in that old building, which was a room about 16 by 40, probably, or 16 by 30. And all those worlds just collided right there. And the bluegrass guys and and it was almost like there were no genres of music. We all talked music on the same level, but completely different styles of music. It was really interesting.
Yeah. Wow. So when you joined Ricky Skaggs' band, did you replace Bryan Sutton? Was that when you left the band? Okay.
Yep.
And then when you left, who took your slot?
Cody Kilby.
Okay. Okay. And he was with him for quite a while, wasn't he? With
yeah,
Ricky
Cody was
Skaggs?
there for, I don't know, 18 years maybe, something like that.
Yeah. So
Because I left in 2000, the end of 2001. So Cody was there from 02 to probably 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know when Jake started.
I don't either. Sounds about right, though. So it seems like in that band, I don't know if it was consciously from Ricky Skaggs, but the guitar player was always a really key part of that band, and he always made sure that he had the top guys playing guitar. I mean, look at the lineage of guitar players in that band. Like maybe the most important instrument in the band. I don't know. What do you feel about that?
I think that's what it was, and I think he liked finding guys that were not just steeped in bluegrass music, but in other genres of music too. Bryan listens to all kinds of music. I listen to I grew up playing, my family are big traditional country people, so Merle Haggard and George Jones. So I approach bluegrass rhythm guitar where it lays in the context of the band more from the country side than the bluegrass side. A lot of guitar players want to play way out on the front end of the beat and think that that's really driving stuff. If you listen to Rice, he played just behind the beat, and probably a big part of that is because the music that he listened to,
Interesting. I often watched his hand as he played, and it seems like Tony especially played almost exclusively on the top three strings of the guitar. He very rarely strummed the low strings. He had such a light touch, and yet such a powerful touch. But it was always on GBE almost exclusively that he played in terms of rhythm stuff. I don't know how he got that much drive out of it, but he certainly did.
Yep, it's where you play on the beat.
Mm-hmm. I remember talking to you at one point where I saw you playing, and you were playing a guitar built by, I think the guy's name was Rick Hayes. Is that correct?
Yep.
Do you still play
That's it right there.
Still got it.
Still been playing it for 15 years.
That's your main axe there?
Well, it is. I'm getting another guitar tomorrow.
Are you?
I found a 43 D18, that I'm going to get tomorrow. At one point, I had a 39 D18. That was, I bought it when I was 18. It was the most mint guitar I've ever seen. It still had the hang tag on it from the music store in 1940. They bought it for $140. It was a graduation present for the guy I got it off of, and he never tried to learn to play. He put the guitar in the case. When he graduated, he put it under his bed. When he got married and moved out, it stayed under his bed. It never saw the light of day from 1940 until I opened the case in 1989. The top was still white. It had never had sunlight on it. The neck needed set because it sat with string tension on it, but it was just a dud. It wasn't a good guitar at all. I played it for about 6 or 7 months and traded it for, I think it was a Brazilian Tony Rice model Santa Cruz, 2 Brazilian Martins, and $2,000 or something like that. And at that time, a 39 D18 was going for about $300 or $3,500. I ended up getting like 12 or 13 out of it. That's how perfect it was.
So we think it was just too new to sound good. It just hadn't been played, or
I don't know. I thought maybe if I play it, it'll wake up. So I played it and played it and played it and played it, and it just never sounded any different. So
yeah.
I think it was just, not all of them are good.
No, that's what I've heard. We first met in 2010. You played at Guitar Town CT with Sierra Hull and Highway 111. I think she was only 18 at that point, because I remember she couldn't drink or drive. I mean, she was a young kid. How'd you end up being in that band? I kind of assumed you were there because you were an experienced guy, and these are all like teenagers, and like, let's bring in somebody that knows a little bit about the road and gigs and can kind of keep us on the straight and narrow.
Well, that's partly it. Sierra told me that when they called me to play, she had asked Adam Steffi, and who to get, or if she should try to get me, because when I went to Mountain Heart, I went because Adam was in the band. We were buddies. And then as soon as I showed up, he left and went and played with the Dan Kaminsky band. So and I was like, I came here because of you. And then you leave as soon as I get here. And he's like, oh, sorry. So I think he was trying to, he suggested me to Sierra. And from what she said, he said, if I had one more song to play, this was the story I got. I don't know how true it is, but it'd be with that guy. Mm-hmm. So I ended up playing with her for a few years, and then I put out the Rain CD, and they were ready to move. I think they got a little older, and they wanted someone more their age in the band. They were trying to portray an image. I was the old guy, so I was the odd man out. So then I started my own band.
Yeah, I remember, because you weren't that old, but I mean, I remember thinking, wow, Clay's quite a bit older than the rest of the band. I don't know how old were you, 30 or something at the time, or late 20s? I don't know.
I was about 40.
Oh, really? So you were?
Yeah, I was 27 when I started with Ricky in 1999.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Do you still stay in touch with Sierra at all? Do you maintain
I saw her. I was at a festival in Minnesota. I was playing out there, and they played a gig in Minneapolis, and they came out and jammed for a while. That's been, I don't know, it's been a while back. 2019, maybe.
Mm-hmm. I heard your band at a festival. I think this was early 2000 teens, maybe. And I think your son had just started playing in the band with you. I forget the festival, but it was a New England festival, and I think your son had just started playing.
New England festival.
That's the only festivals I ever go to, so it had to be somewhere in Connecticut or area where you played.
It wouldn't have been in Mayville, New York, would it?
Nope. No, it might have been either the Podunk Festival, maybe in Connecticut, or one of the.
Now we played at Joe Val Festival.
This was outdoors.
Okay.
And I remember you did a guitar workshop with Josh Williams, I think, and I remember your son. You said, "This is my son." I think he was only like 15 or something at the time, or I don't remember his name. What's his name? Brandon or something?
Brennan.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, I remember hearing that.
It may have been Podunk.
He still plays with you, you said, right?
Yeah, he plays bass now.
Plays bass. Okay.
Yep.
And so this is a question I just came up with, which I like, which is, what advice would you give to your younger self now?
Oh, wow. Learn more about the business side of the music business, and not so much about the music part of the music business.
Mm-hmm. I guess if you're a gung-ho musician and very talented, the music part comes kind of easy and you just go with it. But there's so many other aspects that you maybe could have done differently or made more money at, or what, I don't know, all the ins and outs of it. But
oh yeah, the music business is a lot more business than it is music. Mm-hmm. I guess that's what I would say to myself.
Well, that leads me to my next new question, which is, what's a common myth or misconception that people have about bluegrass music and musicians? Is there I mean, there's certainly an image people have of bluegrass music and bluegrass musicians, but I'm sure a lot of the image people do have isn't really real. Like
Right.
probably like most musicians, is there a common like misconception people have about bluegrass that you want to correct right here? I mean, you just said it's more of a business than a music, which is probably true of a
Oh,
lot
for
of
sure.
things. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. There are so many players that are like world class players that are just working day jobs instead of playing bluegrass because
Mm.
they're the money's more consistent. Like right now after COVID, it's tough because a lot of the shows that you had before COVID shut down,
Yeah.
you know, and during that, here's the main thing that's tough about it is because you usually book shows about a year out. So you had shows that you had booked in 2019, they got canceled in 2020. 21, everybody was still skittish, so they weren't booking shows. They weren't booking acts to play. They didn't know what was going to happen. So then 2022, they started booking a little bit again, but that's for 2023. So it's basically ate up like 4 years. So things are just starting to come up a little bit. And, I think Bela's tour was great for uh, a lot of to drag fans into the music. Billy Strings has brought a lot of fans in. I don't know how much it's really helping other acts,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Tough. It's tough. I know. I mean, I'm an amateur promoter, so I do this for fun. I never made a cent over the 17 years I've been doing this, but
right,
I talked to a lot of bands, a lot of young bands, and I'm always amazed that they can continue to travel, especially the ones that aren't, world famous, drive around their vans and sleep in the van and eat and go on and on and on. In this environment, it almost seems like torture in a way because there's, like you say, there's so many venues aren't doing it anymore, and the ones that do it, the people don't come out like they did anymore. I know that for a fact.
right.
It just seems like a really hard
Well,
time for all musicians, but I think bluegrass especially because you don't have that big wide audience that you might have like as a hip hop artist or something.
yeah. Well, here's another thing. People don't buy CDs anymore. We're all trying to figure out what medium of music you can sell physically to someone because um, they can get anything they want on the internet. Someone buys your product, puts it on the internet, and then everyone has it for free. So that took out a huge source of income for the bluegrass artists or whatever independent genre of music there is, whether it be Americana people that are out there, eating up the road trying to figure out what's the best thing to do. So, back in say in 2000, a friend of mine played with a huge bluegrass band, one of the most popular ones at the time. And he said there were a couple of nights in the time that he played with them, which was a couple or 3 years, where they sold $25,000 worth of CDs.
Wow.
Now you're lucky if you sell $250 worth of CDs because of YouTube,
Sure.
Spotify. Spotify's hugely, I mean, it's great for the listener, but terrible for the artist. If they actually paid royalties on what people listen to, it'd be great. I mean, I use it
Yeah.
but the only thing I use it for is to find obscure stuff that's 50 years old. I haven't listened to modern music really. Everything I listen to is probably pre 1976.
I'm kind of the same way. I want to listen to music. I put on the Beatles or something. I don't know. An LP.
Right.
Because my CD player stinks and all the things skip around. That was a joke. And yeah, so what's the conclusion? Like I see these bands come in, they're selling, LPs, they're selling baseball caps, mugs, t-shirts, bandanas, stickers, pins, anything they can
Kind of everything but music.
anything but right.
Yeah.
And they do sell a few CDs at a show, but I mean, like you said, they're selling 10. So
Right.
it's not really, you're not, and you got a 5-piece band. The expenses are so high. Traveling, eating.
Hotel rooms doubled for some reason in the last 3 years.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, I have more admiration than ever for people that continue to do it. I mean, as you say, certain people are making good living at a lot of money at it, and hopefully bringing new people into it. But I'm not so sure as you are that people that listen to Billy Strings, they're going to go listen to Larry Sparks and you.
I don't think so. I've not seen any trickle down from it.
Yeah.
I was talking to Kenny Smith a couple of weeks ago. I was like, "Have you seen any of the Billy Strings trickle down?" And he was like, "No, I've not seen
Yeah,
any of
that
that."
must be a big topic. I mean, because he just became a world superstar, but everybody else is still hanging on. Interesting.
Yep. I mean, I don't know. They're good, but there are a lot of bands that are good.
Yeah, I know.
That's where the business side of the music comes in.
Mm-hmm.
The publicist.
Sure. All right, let's go to a more bright topic here. I mean, this is, you can talk about it forever. There's no answer. I don't know what the answer is. The whole world's like hanging in the balance. What's going to happen with entertainment and music and just culture in general? What's going to happen to the world? I don't know. It's a dark time in some ways. So, I'm going to say this: you played with a lot of different musicians and people. Any special occasion where you look back and say, "Wow, that was life changing," like just one of the great experiences of your life, a certain gig or record or just anything that you said, "Wow, that really made my life, changed my life."
Probably not what you would think. Of course, when Ricky called me, that was huge because he was always kind of an idol of mine. And then getting to play those shows with Rice, but Tony was always great to me. And I don't know why the first time we were at Frontier Ranch Bluegrass Festival in Columbus, and he was backstage, and I'd just come out of a jam. I don't know if he heard the jam. I was like 16, 17. And he called me backstage and sat, and he let me play his guitar and, talked to me for about 40 minutes or so. And that was crazy.
Yeah.
Because the first time I heard Manzanita, I think I was 11, maybe 10, something like that. And so I was thankful I got to see him a lot over the years. And got to meet Dr. John and Levon Helm at the same time. That was pretty awesome. Of course, a lot of bluegrass people don't even know who they are, but that just comes from listening to a wide variety of stuff.
Right.
Got to meet the Everly Brothers. Got to meet. This was all on the same day, and Albert Lee, and Buddy Emmons. I met all of those people on the same day.
Wow.
We opened for the Everly Brothers in New Jersey. Some theater in and around there. Albert Lee was playing guitar for the Everly Brothers, and Buddy Emmons was playing steel for the Everly Brothers. And Dr. John and Levon were at the show.
That's kind of like a who's who of 20th century American music right there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, Dr. John he was excited. Ricky's band, especially with Jim Mills playing band, the power of that that band that we had back at that time was crazy. So Dr. John was about ready to burst out of his clothes when he came up to us. He's like, "Yeah!" He started screaming.
Nice. You kind of answered this already. What was the nicest compliment you ever got as a musician? Maybe it was something that Tony said, or is there anything you remember that was like, "Wow, that just made my float in my boat" when somebody said that to me?
Yeah, when I was playing with Sierra, we opened for Rice at the Birchmere. And I was walking past his dressing room, and he yelled at me, and I came back and he said, I like your playing. You don't play like nobody. Which is, there you go. That's all I ever wanted, is to be recognizable when somebody hears something I play. Not to be like, oh, yeah, he's listened to a lot of Tony Rice.
I guess from him, that was the ultimate, because I know I've heard him talk to him about music and how he plays, and he'd say, "Man, don't play like me. I already play like me." You know,
Right.
Best thing you can be is be yourself. I don't care how wacky you are out there, but just be true to your own self. So I guess coming from him, that was a pretty big.
Right. Well, he was the launch pad for me. You know, I learned all of that stuff I could, and then, my dad was like, you know, it's great that you're learning all this stuff, but music is an art form, and in all art forms, forgeries are worthless. And I was like, okay.
That's a good one. I once heard, I don't know what this quote is exactly, but it said, the average musician borrows and the great musician steals. I mean, obviously, everyone in art is taking something from someone else, and
Oh yeah.
whether it's art or painting or, I mean, no one's going to reinvent anything. It's
Right.
just a question, but you learn from what you learn from, and then you go out and make it your own. Hopefully, a lot of people don't. They just continue to play the same thing that they learned, and they're making their living and blah blah blah, but they're not making an impact.
Well, you take an idea and then you know, if you're taking an I was more of a I would try to take a concept and change the concept instead of taking the actual musical phrase and changing that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've done that, but what I tried to do more than anything was to make a concept fit the way that if I would have thought the concept up, that it would have applied to me. And you know, it can get out there, but I don't know. Mostly, I try to play around the melody, but use a little different note choice than someone would think. I like to make people uncomfortable when I play, because the players that make me uncomfortable are the ones that I love. If I can, usually when I'm listening to a player, I can map out where they're going, and I know where it's going before it happens. But there are guys like Tim Crouch and Randy Coors. You think you know where they're going, but they'll get up in the middle of the solo, and then they'll like take a hard, 245-degree turn back and up, and then swing back around and yeah, come back in from the top instead of.
You like that approach, like keep the listener on edge a little bit, like not.
Well, yeah, I mean, because if it's the run of the mill idea, even if you're playing different stuff, if it's the run of the mill idea, I'm past there already. I'm waiting on the vocal to come back.
Yeah. I was talking to Todd Phillips about this very thing, because he's been playing bass a long time, and I said, how has your bass playing changed over the last, whatever it is, 50 plus years you've been playing? He goes, well, I think I play less notes, but I play them in better places, or something like that. I thought that was good.
That sounds right to me.
We were talking about, finding the pocket or the groove in music, which is kind of this undefinable kind of magical place where you don't really, as a musician, you might know where it is, but the listener, you don't really know why it suddenly sounds so good. And he said he was talking to his friend, who's a bass player, Willie Weeks, who I guess is a famous R&B, and he said, Willie said, "Don't mistake a rut for a groove." So I thought it was good,
Oh yeah.
The groove is the key if you can find it. So when you play guitar by yourself, or practice, as some might say, how do you start out? Do you just start picking out a fiddle tune or something, or how do you?
When I play, I very seldom play lead at all. Mm-hmm. My favorite thing to do is play rhythm guitar. And that's where I see, personally, the the area that's most lacking in new guitar players. They can all play solos like the wind.
Yeah.
But the meat of, that's what I loved about Tony's guitar playing more than anything, was how he played rhythm.
Me too.
And that's what I try to do. I don't care about solos. I would just as soon everybody else in the band played all the solos. But I know that the fans that we have are mostly guitar guys who want solos. So I play a solo.
Yeah. I remember I was talking to Doyle Lawson, one of my early interviews, and we're talking about Bluegrass Album Band, which was kind of Tony's project. And, Tony didn't want to play solos in those songs. He said, I don't want to play solos. I just want to play the songs. And Doyle said, but you got to play the solo. That's why they're coming. They want to hear the Tony Rice solo. That's the whole reason they came to the show. You got to do it. So he did it, but he really was not interested in doing that at all.
Right.
Back in the day.
That's the way I was. If I do a workshop, I'm like, I'm a paradox, because I'm a guitar player that's known for playing fast solos, but I also think that there shouldn't be solos in bluegrass music by the guitar, because it's mainly the rhythm instrument. So, I mean,
yeah, well, I guess you can kind of thank Tony for that, because he kind of made it he kind of made it a necessity that you expect. All right, there's the solo. Where's the guitar player? And every band expect it.
Oh yeah. It's refreshing to me to hear a really good traditional bluegrass band that plays in the style of Flatt and Scruggs, where there aren't guitar solos. It's mostly fiddle and banjo. And that's just awesome. And it comes across as really different at a show, because you have these bands are trying to do the same thing. A lot of them are even playing the same songs. And you have one band after the next that comes up and it sounds like the same band. There's not a lot of musical identity.
No. I guess that's kind of where our culture is now in lots of ways too.
Oh yeah. They're making the same movies over and over.
Mm-hmm. Same country.
Everything's a remake of something. We're out of fresh ideas.
Yeah. Well, so what have you been working on the guitar lately? Anything you've learned lately that would be interesting to any guitar listeners? Any specific thing or technique or rhythm or whatever?
I've been really here. Hold on. So I don't know how well this will come across, but trying to play less notes and play them in more interesting places, like Todd Phillips said.
Yeah, that's not coming through at all. Unfortunately, on my headphones, that's not coming through. I don't know why.
But no, it's just focusing more on the melody over the last 10 years. I know with Sierra's band it was all about the big, the how much you could play back. It was a big peeing contest most of the time on stage. Sierra and Corey and me, but I mean the crowd seemed to like it because it was the kids playing outlandish solos and at a high level. And but I'm more about singing. That's what I love to listen to, is really good singing. A huge Merle Haggard fan. If I could only listen to one thing for the rest of my life, that's probably what it'd be.
Yeah.
But I love the interaction between the vocal and the guitar, because they're the same frequency range. So if you're playing rhythm guitar or even lead guitar or fills or whatever, you have to figure out a way to play around that singer in the same frequency range and make it interesting. That's really difficult without stepping on the vocal or it just getting lost. And I guess I've been focused more on the nuance of playing guitar versus the I'm focused on the nuts and bolts of the engine instead of the big pieces of the engine. Does that makes sense? That's how I always try to describe it, as the parts of an engine. Everybody knows where the heads are, the intake, the big huge parts, but where are the little nuts and bolts that hook them all together? Those are the hard things to learn.
Do you like the sound of your voice when it's recorded? I know some people hear themselves recorded and say, "Oh God, I sound like that."
I used to hate it, but now that I've been doing it a lot longer, I'm a better singer than I used to be. So it's more palatable, at least, but still mostly no.
So what has made you a better singer? Like what makes a better singer in your opinion, like that you improve on? Is it
Just
or
I think it's a lot of it is a mental um thing on and trying to put yourself in the position of wherever the song is coming from. So it becomes more emotional. Like if I'm singing whatever Long Black Veil, try to put yourself in the position of that guy who's in jail and for something that he didn't do, because he can't say that he didn't murder the guy because he was with his best friend's wife and he doesn't want to destroy that man. So he just eats it. That's a hard place to put yourself in a position, but as close as you can get to that is going to be the best rendering of that song. So it's just getting older and understanding that emotion is what it's all about, whether you're playing or singing. If you can play something that you feel, it's going to be, no matter the level that you play it at, it's going to be innately better than something that you learned. I don't care if it's 5 notes. A 5-note solo that you feel is going to be better than a 100-note solo that you didn't. Because if you're not feeling it, no one else is going to.
do you enjoy or have you spent much time playing as a duo with one other singer or instrumentalist? Is that something that you like, or do you prefer the band?
Yeah, I love to do it. Actually, I've been doing it with Larry Cordell for the last couple or 3 years. There are certain shows we do with the band, but we've played several where it's just me and Larry. So, and it's a lot of fun because he's written so many unbelievable songs, and so we go out and do these things, and I play guitar or mandolin, whichever the song needs, and he tells the story. It's all songs that he's written. Tells the story of where the song came from, where the idea of the song came from, tells the story, and then we do the song. And people love it. I mean, it makes them more a part of what's going on. It's more of it's like watching a musical documentary kind of. Because people never know, they know they like songs, but they have no idea where the idea came from. It's really interesting.
Does he inspire you to write songs when you hear him do that, or you just say, "I'm too busy," or like, is that not in your heart to write more songs, or you just don't?
If I took the time, I could write, but when I get home, I've got 2 little girls and a wife, and I've got demos to cut for people, and I started the studio so I wouldn't have to pay to do my own CDs. I haven't put a record out since 2019. So I got this new single out because I've just been too busy working on other people's stuff.
Yeah.
It's like the mechanic's car never runs right.
Sure.
The contractor's house is never finished.
Gotcha.
There's no money to be made on your own stuff, really. With this, there might be a little bit if you can get it played on XM, but that's about the only hope you've got.
Is there anybody in the history of music that you would have enjoyed playing with that didn't have a chance to? This is a question I asked a lot of people, and the answers were surprising. Missy Raines said she would have loved to play with Jimmy Martin, and Rhonda Vincent said, "I'd love to sing with James Taylor." So is there anyone that you, either alive or dead, that you maybe on your bucket list of?
Merle Haggard.
Merle.
Never got to meet him. came close a couple of times, but never got there. But he was just, I don't know. He was the singer to me.
Yep.
And a really good musician. People don't realize. Buck Owens was another one. Great guitar player. Great singer. I got to meet him though.
Yep. Interesting. Do you do any Merle songs kind of on your sets as a tribute to his music? Do you prefer
No.
just to listen to him do them?
I've produced a couple records that I thought the singer was a good fit for a take on a Merle. I did a record on a girl named Jessie Gregory. Her name's Jessie Keene now,
Okay.
but great singer. And she recorded "I'm Always on a Mountain When I Fall" and killed it. I think she was 19 at the time. But yeah, that was me and Randy Kors and Justin Moses and Sierra, and Harold Nixon played bass, and Tim Crouch played fiddle. It turned out to be a great record.
Mm-hmm.
It's one that people should have that nobody has. And then she got kind of disgruntled with the whole music thing, and she's married to one of my former mandolin players in my band now. And they both work in the medical industry. So,
yeah, as you say, there's a lot of talented people out there that are not making it in music. They have to find their so-called real career because there's only so much money to go around, I guess. And right now, Billy Strings are getting all of it.
well, good for him. That's what
I know.
everybody's
I don't begrudge him a thing. I don't.
No.
I mean, God bless him. He's working hard.
He's pulling off what everybody else is trying to do.
Yeah. Anything about you that you would change if you could? I know. I'm 71. Just had a hip replacement. It gets older. If we get older, it gets harder to think about changing. And I don't think you really change your aspect, but is there anything you would say? Well, if I could do this better, well, you should be more emotional according to your wife. But I mean, I think every man gets that. I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah.
Anything that I would change musically? I don't know. I'm in a good place right now. I think from a where I want to be standpoint, anyway. This record that I'm doing, they're all songs that I love. It's kind of like a "This Is Your Life" in music thing.
Mm-hmm.
Before I've recorded stuff that I was like, I think this will get airplay. I'm going to record this song, whether I loved it or not. I liked it, or I wouldn't have recorded it. But these are all songs that I truly love, and I think that's going to come across. I recorded Galveston, an acoustic version of Galveston, and because that was when I got old enough to know anything at all about music. That was really my first favorite song.
Mm-hmm.
So I recorded that one. I recorded "The Likes of Me," which was a huge influence on me. And Randy Kors destroyed that song. I mean, it was like made for him. And actually, Nick Keene is playing mandolin on it, who I just talked about. Carl Jackson's going to sing tenor on Galveston. I'm waiting on Randy Kors to sing a tenor part on "Likes of Me," which is Tony's didn't have. This one's going to have, oddly enough, a Tony song. His had banjo, mine's not.
Right.
So it's kind of the opposite. Randy's going to sing a tenor part on there, which it didn't have. I don't know if you've ever heard the original "Likes of Me" or not, the Jerry Reed cut.
Yeah, but I'm more familiar with Tony's. But yeah, I've heard Jerry Reed.
Yeah, it's nothing like Tony's cut at all.
No,
it's I don't know. It was like the message of the song didn't fit the melody of the song at all. No, it was really sweet sounding melody, and I almost did it that way, but I was like, no, this is too good. I've got to, And I kicked it off on guitar, paid homage to Tony without playing it like Tony. Mm-hmm. But I was talking to Ron Block, and I was like, does this need banjo? I sent it to him. I was like, does this need banjo? And he's like, I like it better without banjo. And I was like, I do too. I just wanted to hear you say it. But
Yeah.
no,
Well,
it's
I guess that's a mark of a good musician in any genre. When you can take somebody else's song and make it yours. It's still the same song. I feel that way about a lot of Norman Blake songs that Tony did. If you listen, you learn the song from Tony Rice, and you hear the original, it's a completely different song.
right.
Tempo, I mean, just completely different, but yet they both work. But the
Yeah,
one you remember is Tony's,
right. Exactly. Always.
always.
It's like Gordon Lightfoot and Tony. Gordon
Right.
Lightfoot was great, but there again, it's the nuance thing. You know, Gordon Lightfoot had the piece of marble, and Tony made the sculpture out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just he could just pare things down to their essence and make it beautiful. I think one of my top 3 Rice songs ever is "Urge for Going," and most people don't even know what that song is, even Tony Rice fans, because they just skipped over it.
Right.
But the nuance of how he played guitar around the piano and around the vocal, and everything is just so sparse but beautiful, and the lyric content's amazing. But I don't know. I think a lot different than I did 25 years ago.
Yeah. It's funny. There's a lot of so-called bluegrass singers, Alison Krauss, that beautiful vocals, beautiful songs. The only person that ever made me cry listening to a song was Tony. Of all the
Yeah,
people I've ever heard play bluegrass, I mean, the emotion in his stuff, nobody else has that. And it's funny because there's so many great singers that have beautiful vocal quality, but none of them have that, in my opinion.
right.
Never
Yeah,
heard it.
I get that for sure.
You kind of touched on this before, but I was going to say, if you had a week off and all your guitars are in the shop for repairs, where are we going to find you? Without fishing?
On a lake somewhere,
Like okay. Does your
preferably in Florida.
does your wife share your interest in fishing, or does she just tolerate you for that? Or
My wife loves saltwater fishing.
oh,
After we went fishing in the Everglades on our honeymoon. That was one day we did that. She caught a 6-foot bull shark and has never been the same since. She doesn't even want to fish in a lake now. She's
yeah.
like, "Am I going to catch anything that's 6 feet long?" I was like, "No." Well, I don't want to
You probably have to go up to Minnesota and get a pike or something.
go. Yeah. Now she does like fishing for pike because they fight super hard. And but yeah, there's either that or let's see. I love to. I haven't done it in a long time, but I love to play in poker tournaments because probably for the same reason that I like to watch Forensic Files and all those things. I love to try to figure out what makes people tick.
Mm.
I'm a people watcher, so you're not gonna. That's the hardest place to try to figure somebody out.
Yeah, interesting. Looking at your touring schedule, I don't see too many New England gigs. Is that you just don't come up here anymore? It's too far. It's not worth it.
Oh no, we would. It's just that I don't. Most of the stuff I play is in the Midwest,
Yeah, I noticed.
Minnesota, Missouri, Indiana. Um, it's and it's it's harder because you have to have, like, for me to go to Connecticut. That's about 12 hours, probably 11 or 12 hours. With fuel is $3.50 a gallon. Hotel rooms are $200 a night. It takes a lot for a promoter to even, for it to be worthwhile for both people.
Sure.
So, I had a little hotel festival that we had it for a couple of years. It did great. And then 2020, it was going to be March 14th and March 15th. And that was the day before, March 13th, they shut Ohio down. So I had people coming from 2 and 3 states away that I had to call and be like, don't come because there's nothing here. And it was going to be the best year. We had, I forget how many pre-sold tickets we had, like 300, and then had 825 people say they were interested in going on Facebook. So you can probably take a quarter of those, maybe. So we would have had 600 people there. And it would have been awesome, but never happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we're kind of far from the epicenter of bluegrass. I knew that when I started, and things have changed a lot. So I'm not in any position to I was offering bands big guarantees back then, $6,000-8,000, and it was all working out. Now I'm just doing little shows, and
right.
My daughter became ready to go to college, and my wife said, "You can't be doing these $7,000 guarantees." And I said, I can't. It's too stressful. I was losing sleep. It was just terrible. And
right.
So I'm down to small 60, 65 seats and little. Sometimes I get people passing through. I think Kenny and Amanda might stop through this fall because they might be playing somewhere up here. But other than that, it's just I can't offer anything, unfortunately.
Yep. Have you ever had the Cadleys there?
No. Should I?
John and Kathy Cadley?
I know the name. No, I haven't. Should I check them out?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I don't know
Heck,
much about them, but
John's a great songwriter.
I know his name through songwriting, but I never know the two of them, so I'll check them out. So we're gonna wind down our hour here. Is there anything you wish I had asked you that I didn't ask you? Like you're just dying to tell people? Or we covered a lot, I know.
When you get older, you're not dying to tell anybody anything.
Okay, well that's fair enough. That's
you want people to know as little about you as possible.
I hear you. That's good wisdom. All right. Well, we can call it there, and it's a good hour plus, and we've covered a lot of ground today. You've given a lot of good advice and stuff about music, and your opinions are. I shared a lot of them, so I want to thank you for taking time today to talk to God Grass, and good luck with everything. Good luck with your newest project, and hope maybe we'll see you down the road somewhere.
Well, thanks. It was good to see you again.
Take care, man.
All right, see you.
Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed our podcast, and thanks for listening. Visit our website, guitartownct.com, for concert and podcast schedules, or just to send us a message. We'd love to hear from you.